Although I've been credited with the person who deduced this equation, to tell you the truth, the equation found me. The 5 sources of human hope, the 5 triggers of happiness, and the 5 inborn human hungers. My score is...
Welcome to Everyone's Talking Money, where we get brutally honest about money, mindset, and making life richer. Dr. Obayuwana, after 30 years of researching human happiness, what first sparked your curiosity about the link between hope, happiness, and how we navigate life's biggest choices, especially the ones tied to money and security?
The very first time I became interested in the study of human hope was as a medical student. In medical school, you rotate through different departments: pediatrics, surgery, physical therapy, psychiatry, OBGYN. When I was on psychiatry, I helped to take care of 2 patients who were admitted for attempted suicide. And speaking with them, I was struck, I was deeply moved, and I just became transformed, thinking very seriously about hope, human hope, and what it's all about. Because these 2 ladies, it was like nothing matters. Yesterday was just like today, is just like yesterday, and tomorrow is not going to be different. So what's the big deal? What am I doing here? That's the way they felt.
Like nothing to look forward to.
Exactly. So I told my professor that I want to study human hope, and they were very supportive. And I got a grant in 1979 to do a study on human hope. That's how I got started. And we found out where the 5 sources of human hope and how to measure them. And we came up with a scale called the Hope Index Scale. And it became very popular, even with Fortune 500 companies like Coca-Cola and General Motors. U.S. Veteran Administration was using it. PhD students were using it for research in and outside the United States. That's how I got started, and I became interested. And what made me to look at happiness was when the gentleman by the name Martin Seligman became the president of American Psychological Society. And the theme of his tenure was positive psychology. And so there was talk about happiness. And my question was, why are we talking about happiness? Why not hope? Hope is what is lost when people try to take their own life. Is hope the same as happiness? Can you have one without the other? That's how I got to find out a simple equation that clarified most of the question I had about happiness. And the simple equation was hope over hunger equals happiness. And that is what I have dubbed the triple H equation. And that's the theme of the book, The Happiness Formula.
That many people will say, well, I want to be happy, or I want them to be happy when talking about friends or loved ones. But no one ever says, I want you to be hopeful. And hope isn't talked about very often. Exactly. So why do you think that is that we just focus so much on happiness? Happiness feels more tangible than hoped. Yes. Could that be a reason why? And how do your work makes hope almost more tangible?
The thing is that happiness is still undergoing a lot of study. You know, psychologists for a long time, they were just disease focused, and depression, anxiety. It was when positive psychology came on that they started to try to study what makes life worth living. Okay. And my understanding in the research I had done previously is that hope is what makes life worth living. But now psychologists came up with, positive psychologists came on with the idea that happiness is the aim of life, is what is. That's why I did the research and found out that you cannot have happiness without hope, right? Hope, that is the feeling that what you desire is possible. And your hunger, not just hunger for food, any compelling desire is a hunger. So your happiness depends on your hope and your hunger. If your hope is larger than your hunger, the degree of hope is larger than the intensity of your hunger, you are a happy person. When your hope is low and your hunger is intensive, you are unhappy. And that is the basis of my finding and what is this book is about. It tells you everything about happiness, hope, happiness, hunger, about life and how to live, acquire and live a flourishing life. That's what this is all about.
Hope over hunger equals happiness. How did you get there? That's the equation. How did you determine that these are the elements to create happiness?
Thank you very much. Very, very good question. And remember, I did a research on hope, okay? That was my original research. And hope is defined as the feeling and the belief that what one's desires is achievable. That's what hope is about, that your desires are achievable. Now, where do desires come from? That was another study that I participated in. And we found that desires, especially compelling desires, are 5 major compelling desires. And these we call hunger, as I defined it. And they are the hunger for inclusion and acknowledgement. That was one. Number 2 was the hunger for intimacy and trusted companionship. The third one was hunger for food and comfort. And the fourth one was hunger for information and answers. And the fifth one was hunger for continuity and certainty. And we first found this in children. Babies were studied right from the moment they came out of the womb. The very first hunger that they show is hunger for food and comfort. They don't verbalize it, but they are crying. We are all born unhappy. If you are ever in the delivery room, you will find that out. Every baby comes out unhappy. Why are they unhappy? Because they have been evicted from the uterus without preparation or notice, as far as they are concerned, and they are hungry. Food used to flow continuously through the umbilical cord without any effort. And now they're cold, the warm water is gone, so they're crying. And what do? We wipe them up, cover them with warm blanket, and give milk. And they keep quiet. In the nursery, when they get to the nursery, if there are 5 babies in the nursery, and number 3 is crying, it's one of 2 things. It's wet or hungry. Food and comfort. And you change the diaper, give it food, goes back to sleep. Right? So we knew that these are inborn hungers. These 5 hungers I told you. You've seen kids talking about, oh, mommy, they won't play with me. They won't let me join. Inclusion and acknowledgement. Daddy, look at me. Grandma, see what I'm doing. See, the hunger for inclusion and acknowledgement is inborn. And of course, kids ask many questions. Hunger for information and answers. They are inborn. Then hunger for certainty and continuity. And kids, they like things to continue. The stories they like best are the ones that end with everybody living happily ever after. Okay? At the merry-go-round, after one ride, they want to do it again. At the county fair, the same thing. Mommy, let's do that again. Grandma, tell us another story. And if you ever play peekaboo with a kid, it could take a whole day if only the adult will cooperate. Continuity. And of course, kids are very, very unforgiving when you break your promise. Daddy, but you promised. So these 5 hungers were there. So when the issue of happiness came on, and psychologists are ignoring hope and they're just talking about happiness, I then was wondering, can you have one without the other? Can you have hope without hunger, without happiness? And when I was looking at these 3, the 5 sources of human hope, the 5 hungers, inborn hungers, and the 5 triggers of happiness, I found the connection, how they are related. And the only way I could describe it was mathematically, to describe this relationship very precisely. And that's how I came up with hope over hunger equals happiness. That means if you have your hope score and your hunger score, you have your happiness score. And looking at it, hunger, of course, if your hunger is very, very high, you cannot be happy. So there are 3 kinds of people. All the testing I've done all over the world, in Africa, in Canada, in North America, US, in the Caribbean, and in Central and South America, there are three kinds of people in any cohort, any community. People who are high in hope and low in hunger. People who have moderate level of hope and average hunger. And the third group, which will the zone C people. The first one is zone A. Yes, second one is zone B. And the third one is zone C. That's people with low hope and overwhelming hunger. These are the three kinds of people that you can find. And of these three, zone B is where most people are in. Every community I've tested, about 50, 60%, sometimes 65, are in zone B. About 20%, 25% in zone A. And zone C, about 10, 15%. And so, this is the first time we are able to measure happiness and have a score and report it in a universal unit of measure called personal happiness index. So if your personal happiness index is 1 or more, you are happy. If it's less than 1, you are unhappy, because we are talking about the ratio of your hope to your hunger, you see. So when you are very hopeful and minimally hungry, you are happy. On the other side, when you are very low in hope and very intensive hunger, level of hunger, you are unhappy. So this is a discovery, an original discovery that I made just from these three findings that I did before.
That's exciting, because the light bulbs are going off for me, and hopefully they are for the listeners as well. Because if you think about someone that is super hungry, like they want to do things, they want to achieve things, or they have the physical hunger, but if they don't have the hope that it's going to work out, well, then of course they're going to be unhappy, right? Because something's missing. They have the drive, or they have the need, they have the want, but if they just don't have the confidence or the emotional side behind it, something's always going to be lacking. So they're always going to feel like things are not complete.
Exactly.
When you're sitting down with someone and you're speaking with all when you're doing your research, how do you actually assign those numbers to hope and hunger?
Okay. Remember, my very first research that I did, even while in medical school, was measuring hope. So I knew how to measure hope. Okay. Hunger, I also, using the same method I use in measuring hope, to learn to measure hunger. There are 5 sources of human hope. Okay. And there are 5 human hungers. So we measure the hope and we measure the hunger. And we divide your hope score by your hunger score. Okay. In the scale that I'm using, the maximum score you can get in your hope score is 48. And the maximum score you can get in your hunger score is 48. When they are equal, and then therefore equals 1 or above, you are happy. Now, when your hope is less than your hunger, you are unhappy, you see. And of course, hope generates positive emotions, and hunger generates negative emotion. Anxiety, fear, apathy, sadness, whereas hope gives you exhilaration, excitement, interest, joy. So we are actually measuring the ratio of your positive emotion to your negative emotions, and we call it personal happiness index. For my disclosure, I will tell you my personal happiness index. But first, I want you to know that 1 to 2 mean happy people. Above 2 mean very happy. 4 and above mean flourishing. Okay, that means you are at the highest range of functioning for humans. Now, when your PHI is below 0.5, you are very unhappy. When it is between 0.5 and 1, you are unhappy. You are very unhappy when it's below 4. You are languishing when it is 0.25 or below. Okay. And so, for the first time, we have a way of quantifying and reporting human happiness. Many studies that people have done before my book came out, before my finding, they say this we're happy, so and so we're happy. They don't have a way of measuring them. All right. So it has been a guessing work. But now, for the first time, we have a way of measuring happiness and reporting it in a universal unit of measure. PH, my score is 2.932.
Wow.
I'm very happy, but I'm not flourishing yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm working on it. We all can be happier. Just because I discover the method doesn't mean I'm going to have the highest score. I am not going to always be me, and using it, I'm very happy, which I am, but I'm not flourishing yet.
Has your research found, you named the 5 different areas of hunger. Has your research found, are they equal? Like, are they treated equal? Or if you find someone's maybe satisfied in one area of their hunger, but, very uncomfortable, dissatisfied in another, does one have more of an effect negatively on someone?
It depends on people, okay? For instance, for a millionaire, for instance, the average millionaire, the hunger for food and comfort is not going to be a big deal because it probably has, it can afford food and comfort, has a good home and all that. To another person, that might be someone who's homeless. That is a major thing, all right? Although a millionaire who wants to become a billionaire and is very far away is going to have concern about his or her finances also. So that's why we can have happy peasants and miserable millionaires, okay? Because we all have different inclusion and acknowledgement. There are people that work very hard but are never acknowledged and they don't get the respect that they deserve. There are people that have a lot of questions, questions, but they don't have answers. So their hunger for information and answer is very intensive. Okay, people are very worried about their future. Their hunger for continuity and certainty is also very important. So it's different from different people. That's why there are different scores. That's why some people are happy, some are very happy. So those are the things. And it does not depend on how much you earn, actually, how much you have in the bank, or whether you are married or single, what kind of work you do. It depends on the intensity of your hungers and your mindset about them. For instance, you can be living on $500 a month and you still have that sense of adequacy. Your hunger for food and comfort will not be a big thing for you, okay? Because of your sense of financial adequacy and resource sufficiency, you see. So it depends on you, okay? The 5 sources of human hope are your intrinsic assets, the human family assets, educational assets, your spiritual assets, and economic assets. That's what make up your sources of human hope.
Sorry, but can you be at your, max hope, if you will, but not have all 5 fully maxed out? Like you mentioned spiritual, so a spiritual asset. Say someone is not spiritual or religious or any their finances may be an issue or that don't have enough adequate resources. Can you still have high hope without all 5 cylinders, if you will, filled up?
See, the hope, we know the sources of human hope and we know the 5 hungers. So every individual has its own life situation. Okay, it depends on the sources of hope that you have, how rich they are, whether they are there or not, and your hungers. That's what determines how happy you are. That's why it's different from different people. And that's how we can select and identify who is happy, very happy, unhappy, very unhappy, languishing, or flourishing. Because it's different from different people. There are areas in my life that I'm working on so I can flourish. All right. And so that will be different for you. If you take this Edo questionnaire, you answer this Edo questionnaire, you will find out your personal happiness index.
You named your personal happiness index and it's very high, right? Were you surprised? Yours?
Mine was 2.932. But however, I want to be higher. I want to be happier.
Were you surprised when you got your score back? Did you say to yourself, well, that makes sense.
Oh,
Yes, that
yes,
makes sense. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And do you think when you look back at your life, you were at that level at most points of your life? Like how much of it is hereditary, natural, comes to you, and how much do you have to work for to
Shari,
build it up?
beautiful question. There are your intrinsic assets, which is a part of one of the sources of human hope, depending on your genetics, your family history, and things like that. Okay. All right. So that is there. Your human family support has to do with people around you, your friends, your neighbor, your colleagues at work, children, spouse, grandparents, people that love you, understand you, empathize, and influence your life. Okay. Your educational assets, your awareness of your environment and your own plight, your formal and informal education, your curiosity, how much you know, how much questions you have bothering you that are unanswered. Okay. So these are all the things and let me quickly point out, I didn't set out trying to find a way to measure happiness. That was not my research. My research was human hope, how to improve human hope and prevent suicide. So this, although I've been credited with the person who deduced this equation, to tell you the truth, the equation found me because I was just looking at the relationship between the 5 sources of human hope, the 5 triggers of happiness, and the 5 inborn human hungers when I found the relationship that I could only most precisely express using a mathematical language that said hope over hunger equals happiness. So people are different. That's why we have different scores. And in my life, there are times when sources of my hope have changed and my most intensive hungers have also altered. Okay. As a physician, I've come to have a comfortable life. I'm glad, but it has not always been so. So my hunger for food and comfort has not always been as it is today. And my hunger for intimacy and trusted companionship has changed. Okay. And it would change for anybody if you lose your spouse. Okay. Or you get divorced, or you get new friends. You found an old love. So it depends. It can change anytime. Okay. So that's why happiness can flourish, and flourishing can go up and down. But mostly you have an area, your score is not changing every day. If you lose your car keys, after you came back from the grocery, or you can't find your remote control, your personal happiness index is not going to change. It's when there is a life altering event and it will change. So it's a very profound equation. I'm happy that I'm talking with you. Like I have spoken, I've been invited to speak even on BBC, Forbes, and then Newsweek. I do not have enough money to make this broadcast on CNN or on the major channels. But as I give lectures, people are getting tested. As I'm doing more research, people are getting to know more about it. And when we say happiness is elusive, it's no longer elusive for me. If you can measure something and put a number on it, it becomes real. It becomes easier to see. Today, we talk about someone having a low temperature, high temperature, or moderate body temperature. That was not any term we were using in medicine until a gentleman called Daniel Fahrenheit devised a tool for measuring temperature. And another gentleman, Anders Celsius, devised another tool for measuring temperature. That's how we know now what the normal is, what the average is, what the low is. And so it's happiness. Look at Rikishi sumo wrestlers from Japan. Before we had the weighing scale, if there were 20 sumo wrestlers in a room, you could not just tell who is heavier than whom until there is a weighing scale. And when they stand on you, say, okay, this one is just 2 pounds heavier than the other. But looking at them ordinarily, you won't. So it's the same at happiness. Now we have a way of measuring happiness. It becomes real. And when your happiness coach says he's helping you, take your score before the help and take it after the help. and see if it's increased. So there's so much going on. People are talking about getting happier, but they don't have any way to measure it.
People will say all the time, well, if this happens, if I get a raise, or if I pay off this debt, or if my partner does something to change, then I'll be happy. But that thing happens, right? It happens, but nothing's ever different because that's not that's not your hope. That was not your hunger. Those things were not changing.
But we are
You
not
can't.
measuring them,
Right.
Shari. So we
Yeah.
don't even know.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Just imagine if you want to be physically fit, all right? And you go to a coach and the coach tell you what exercises to do. And you go ahead, you start those exercises, you are doing it. But you don't have a way of measuring your weight. You don't know where you are. You don't know where you started from. You don't know where you are going. If you are stagnant, you don't know. If you are progressing, you don't know. The same thing with our emotional fitness when we are looking for happiness, just like physical fitness, right? If you cannot measure progress, you cannot effectively improve on anything. To be able to effectively improve on something like happiness, you have to be able to measure progress. And this is what has been missing in research about happiness.
So when someone, and tell the listeners, is the only way to get their score, to assess their score, is through your book. How do we assess our score? How do we get our index?
Okay. You're going to assess your score. First of all, the scale is not out there for just public use. All right. When you buy the book, by buying the book, you have a permission to use the scale for yourself. The scale is in the book, but you cannot copy it and print it and start using it to serve others. You can use it for yourself. So when you buy the book, you have our permission. It's in there to. But when you're going to use it, anybody else, any other uses, you have to get the permission from the Triple H Project LLC, and I'm the founder and CEO of that organization.
So when we get our score, we do the exercise, we get our score, then it is possible to move up in score through, you said you want to get to flourish, right? So you're working to get to flourish. Is it, or does it depend on the person? Is it better to increase hope, or is the exercise to decrease your hunger? How do you kind of manipulate the
There you
so
go.
your score can change?
Yeah, before now, we didn't really know. We cannot just say, these are two things you need to do. But now we know. You increase your hope or decrease your hunger. One or both, you will be happier. So even for happiness coaches, okay, they know exactly now what to do. Increase hope, decrease hunger. If you want to stay happy, it's what you want to do every day. So it makes it clearer, it makes it easier to discern, and it makes it more practical. Okay? And in the book, it's not just how to measure happiness. How do you increase your hope? How do you decrease your hunger? It's all there. It's available in all bookstores, Barnes and Nobles, Book a Million, or you can get it from Amazon.
We will be sure to link it in the show notes. Can you give us one or two ideas on increasing hope? I just think that that's not talked about enough. We talk about a lot interpersonal relationships and having good relationships, and that's part of the hunger, but no one ever addresses how to become more hopeful. So what are just some ideas for the listeners on how you can actually increase your hope as soon as they stop listening today?
When they stop listening today, I will advise, get the book, really, and find out where you are. If you want your hope to be high for a sustained period, these are the things that you need to do. First of all, find out your calling, or any mission that is meaningful to you, that you know you want to be involved in, that makes you happy and makes your life meaningful as you're doing it. Okay, that's number one. You got to find your calling, your niche. Okay, after you find that, then do something every day to improve and advance in your calling. Okay, number two, do something, no matter how small, to bring a smile on somebody's face. Number three, be grateful, counting your blessings. No matter how destitute you are, you have a lot to be thankful for. Even after any tragedy, when you think about it and have a time to settle, you see that it could even be worse. So be grateful. Okay. Number 4, learn something new every day. Be curious. And number 5, take some time to attend to your soul. All right. Spirituality is your notion, the dividends of your notion about God, man, good or evil, life and death. Spirituality doesn't always mean going to church, going to the synagogue. Spirituality sometimes doesn't even have to do with God. Spirituality is the dividends of your notion and beliefs about God and man, about good and evil, about life and death, about right and wrong. When you have the right mindset about these things, you are spiritual. Okay, so these are the things. Find your niche. Everyone has a calling. Find your calling. Do something about it every day to enhance it and maintain it and advance it. Be nice to everybody. Give a cup of cold water to your gardener. It doesn't have to be, but bring a smile on somebody's face every day, no matter how small. Learn something new every day. Be thankful and count your blessings and attend to your soul.